not considered a part of the religion, I would say that in most parts of the Muslim world, if you express to them that you do not believe that this day should be celebrated, you would find people looking at you very negatively. People hold to it quite strongly. And when they do it believing that it is pleasing to God. They're not going to do something which they don't believe is pleasing to God. They're doing this, whether it's reading the Quran on that circumstance. And as I said, you mentioned that what is done in the Mawlid or Mawlud is just reading the Quran. That may be in your small circle. But when we go around the Muslim world, we find something else. We find celebrations looking like Christmas. People singing songs and, even dancing and music and, all kinds of stuff going on. And much of these songs they call qawali and all these different types of, qasa'id and things which are used. When you look into the meanings of what are being said in these various verses of poetry, they are attributing to Prophet Muhammad, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, attributes which belong only to Allah. So you find shirk in much of what is recited. And as I said, the practices go far beyond what you speak of. Maybe some people, a few, maybe people have reflected more on the religion, realizing that these other practices are a bit extreme, and they try to bring it down to something simpler, just reading Quran and so on and so. But I will question them, why do you pick that day to read Quran as a group? Because you believe that's the day on which the Prophet was born. So you are celebrating his birthday. And as I pointed out, the celebration of a birthday is prohibited in Islam. It is pagan in its origin. Muslims did not celebrate birthdays, nor did Jews, followers of Moses, etc. Celebration of birthday was known amongst the Romans, the Greeks, the Egyptians, the Persians. These are the people who were not following Egyptians, I don't mean Muslim Egyptians, I mean like the pharaohs and these others. So please don't take this as any personal attack or anything, okay? The people, peoples of the past, the pagan peoples, these are those who celebrated birthdays. So for us to start that celebration, and as I said, when a person does that act, they do it believing that it is pleasing to God. And whatever act, this is the Islamic definition of worship. Whatever act that you do which is pleasing to God, this is an act of worship. This is why the whole of the Muslim's life becomes an act of worship. You see, we don't separate, and have a secular kind of our actions that we have, these secular acts that we do which are separate from our religious acts. No. The religion encompasses, that's the thing about Islam that is unique, that there's no separation between the mundane and the secular and the religious. No, it is all one, it is all encompassed. And whatever we do, we are supposed to do it believing that this is pleasing to God. And how can we know whether it is pleasing to God or not? To use our minds to think, well, I think the Prophet would like if I celebrated his birthday. Who are you? Who are you to think that? Did you ask him? No. Now, if it was something good to do, something pleasing to Allah, the Prophet Muhammad already said that he did not leave anything which would bring us closer to Allah. That is pleasing to Allah, because if it's pleasing to Allah when we do it, we come closer to Allah. He did not leave anything which would bring us closer to Allah except that he told us to do it. Finish. It means there is nothing new we can add to the religion which will bring us closer to Allah, which will be pleasing to Allah, which the Prophet Muhammad did not already inform us. Not necessarily explicitly, because this is why we have what we call fiqh. The application of the Sharia, the divine revelation, when we apply it from place to place, depending on circumstances, we may apply it in slightly different manners. This is the fiqh. And this, we believe, when the person does apply the law, although it is a human being applying it, we believe this is pleasing to God. Its foundation is based on revelation. The actual ruling that we may take, for example, when Muslims say it is prohibited to smoke hashish. Now, hashish was not around in the time of the Prophet Muhammad, but the foundations of intoxicants were already prohibited in the Quran and the Sunnah. So if we find anything which functions in a similar manner, we can prohibit it. This is the fiqh, using our understanding in the application of the law. But the foundation of what we're doing is there in the Quran or the Sunnah. But now when we come to celebrating the Prophet's birthday, where is the foundation? What is the foundation on which we are going to base that practice? The celebration, our sister is asking, the celebration of birthdays, I've already pointed out. This is pagan in its origin. As Muslims, we do not partake of pagan celebrations. The Prophet Muhammad, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, had said, "Man tashabbaha biqawmin fahuwa minhum." Whoever imitates the ways of a people is of them. If you take part in the pagan rituals, then you are like a pagan. So we avoid practices which are specifically related back to paganism. It doesn't mean, for example, that the suit, the jacket, the tie came from America. These people weren't Muslims, so it is prohibited for you to. No, I'm not saying. Because this has not got any kind of religious significance. It is not linked to, if it were, for example, in the form of a robe which is worn by Catholic priests, for example. They had a particular robe, they do have different robes that they wear for certain ceremonies, etc. For a Muslim to take on that particular dress is prohibited. So, the practice of celebration of birthdays, though celebration of birthdays in and of themselves are not considered a religious act in and of themselves, because when people are celebrating the birthday of their children, they're not thinking that this is something pleasing to Allah. This is just something, a custom which people do. This is how they're looking at it. So though it may not be looked at from a point of innovation in the religion here, it is looked at as prohibited from the point that it is of pagan origin. This was the practice of the pagans, those who worshipped idols. This is what they used to do, celebrate birthdays, give gifts on these birthdays. So for a Muslim, it would be prohibited for them to be involved in such practices. The national day, from an Islamic perspective, is also prohibited. To celebrate the birth of the nation, this is prohibited because the Prophet Muhammad, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, when he left Mecca and came to Medina, he found the people of Medina having a number of different celebrations. And he asked them, what is this for? And they told him, we did this for this, that for that. He said, well, listen here. We have only two celebrations. Eid al-Fitr, celebration at the end of the fasting, and Eid al-Adha, celebration of Prophet Abraham's sacrifice. That's it. It means any other celebration which is done on a yearly basis, which is called Eid. So it's called Eid because it comes from Ada Ya'udu, thing which comes back every time, every year on the same date. That, any of those kind of celebrations are prohibited Islamically. Whether it's New Year's Day, National Day, whatever. According to what I'm saying now, what you do is you try to sit them down and say, do you know where Christmas came from? You try to educate them.